All right, guys, we have one last bit of movie news before we move on and take your emails. And this movie news is coming from The Hollywood Reporter. It's not exactly from The Hollywood Reporter, it's kind of all over the internet. But the very popular video game franchise, Assassin's Creed, back in 2016, we had a live action adaptation of the video game into a movie starring Michael Fassbender. It did not go over so well. Anyway, over at Netflix, Netflix and the game developers Ubisoft have combined efforts, and they're going to create a sort of cinematic universe. It feels like every single day, every corner we take, there's a new cinematic universe being announced, right? And this is the newest one, Assassin's Creed. They're going to do essentially a series of films and more so television shows. And that's what they are specifically working on right now, is developing a television show kind of in the same vein of The Witcher or there's another video game franchise that just got announced for a television show. I'm not a gamer. Full disclosure, I'm not a gamer. I don't like video games. I don't enjoy playing video games. This could be cool if they do it well, right? And I guess that same sentiment, that same idea can be laid upon literally anything. Hey, this video game franchise could be cool if they do it well. This superhero thing could be cool if they do it well. This movie about Facebook could be cool if they do it well. You can apply that sentence to literally anything. But the thing about this is that video game adaptations traditionally are terrible. And there's kind of this idea of a curse, the video game movie curse, right? We thought we were going to break the curse with Warcraft. The World of Warcraft. Nope, that movie was pretty bad. The Super Mario Brothers movie was so atrocious. Nobody even attempted doing video game movies for a very, very long time. I think it's safe to say, Josh, that the current state of things in terms of like video game adaptations into movies, probably the best ones have been the new Sonic the Hedgehog movie and Tomb Raider, the new Tomb Raider with Alicia Vikander. So far, in my purview, those are some of the best. Maybe a case could be made for Resident Evil, like back in the year 2000 or something, with Mia Jovovich, I think. Video game adaptations traditionally do not work. The Witcher on Netflix has had a decent go of it. It's not my particular favorite show. I don't enjoy the show. I've stopped watching it. But other people seem to like it. So The Witcher will continue on. And now we're getting kind of a universe-ish kind of thing with Assassin's Creed. Josh, how familiar are you with Assassin's Creed? And do you think that world lends itself to decent storytelling in this regard?
So I do love video games, and especially the older stuff. All the Nintendo properties and all the, kind of my era of growing up and stuff. So I'm very partial to anything that's made or remade into those. For instance, Legend of Zelda, I hear, is getting a treatment, which I'm really excited
That
about.
has been in development for years. I highly doubt that that's actually going to happen anytime soon because we haven't had like any real traction in that IP. I would love to see Legend of Zelda if they did kind of like a Lord of the Rings feel for Legend of Zelda. I think that would be perfect, but that hasn't gained like any actual traction.
Yeah, and so I mean that I think TV is a perfect place for video game adaptations because they can sort of expand on the stories that are already being sort of like beloved by people who already played the game, and it can introduce the characters to these games, and it only seems to be a win-win for the video game company and the production company if they make them. So, having said that, Assassin's Creed, I don't know that much about it. I know it's a very beloved property. I know people love this game. It's really popular. I haven't played it personally. I see, why not? I think one thing that I always loved, that I always thought was really cool, was Stephen King was once asked, how do you feel about your movies or your books being turned into movies? And he said, I don't mind it. And they were like, well, what if it's flops or what if it's not that great? He goes, honestly, If it flops, it only makes the book look better, and the book's always going to be there. So no matter what, no matter how bad a movie is, you'll always have the book. And if it's a success, it's only going to pique more interest in the books. Therefore, it's only going to make that sort of connection stronger. So I love that sort of ideology of like, look, if it obviously sucks for the production company that fails in this venture, like as we saw with, like you said, with Super Mario. As a kid, I remember watching that, and not as a kid, not thinking it was particularly terrible, but not particularly loving it. But now I watch it, and I'm like, oh yeah, obviously this is not great. Uh, woof. But uh, so I think there's that. I think there's always the video game. If you don't like the series, you can always go back to the video game and just love that thing, the original product. But I guess that kind of goes with anything. Having said that, there are some successful things that you talked about, and also another one is Castlevania, which Netflix produced.
Yeah, that's
Which they,
right. The anime show.
yeah, and they took their own spin on it, and they made it really serious. They made it into a drama, like a legit sort of heavier horror drama sort of
Hmm.
thing. Um, and it seems to work. I think they're on season 3 now, so that seems
Yeah,
to
it's doing
be
okay.
doing. Yeah, so I think it's possible, and I think it's fun, and I think it's absolutely something that people can get behind if it's like you said, if it's done well, if it's done with a vision, if it's that weird tricky balance of like comics and hot properties and things like that. That's like you got to serve the fans who love it, but you also have to bring something unique and fun to it. Otherwise, it looks like you're just sort of like serving up rehab
Now here's a
material. So it's a
here's a
weird.
question that I want to ask you, and I'm going to bring up the numbers here on screen. The Assassin's Creed movie that came out in 2016 with starring Michael Fassbender. The ads for it looked decent. They looked okay. But if we actually look at the numbers that came in, Assassin's Creed only made $125 million, or rather, sorry, it made $240 million, but the budget of the film itself was 125. The IMDb score, it gave it a 5.7 out of 10. It got an 18% on Rotten Tomatoes. The Metacritic score is a 36. Now, this movie lost money. This movie it lost a lot of money. On a $125 million budget, it only made $240 million. Now, some people might hear that and say, well, Mike, it made money. It did not. It cost $125 million to make the movie. But if nobody knows about it, nobody's going to go see it, right? So now you have to market the movie. You have to promote it. Whenever you promote a movie, you need to double the budget of whatever it is that you spend on it. And that's how much money you need to spend marketing your film. So if you spend $125 million making the movie, you have to spend another $125 million marketing the movie. So now we're up to $250 million. And then you have to pay the people who are showing your movie. Movie theaters, the exhibitors, on average, they get about 1.5% of the box office sales. Up, on average. So if your movie costs $250 million, between marketing and the actual making of the film, you need to pay the theaters about 1.5%. So in this scenario, that comes out to $375 million. In terms of movie making, it's a little bit on the lower side. It's not an Avengers Endgame. It's kind of right in the middle. Avengers Endgame was a $250 million budget film. This is only 125. It's a decent budget. It's not a low budget, but it's also not a super crazy high budget. So in order for this film to just break even, it needed to make $375 million. It only made 240, which means it lost about $130 million. The amount of money that it cost to make this movie, it lost more money than it cost to make. So just putting that in perspective for a second. And like I said, combined with its Metacritic score of 36, it only got an 18% on Rotten Tomatoes. 18% does not indicate the quality of the film. It just means 18% of critics who saw it liked it. That's all it means. But on IMDb, it did get a 5.7 out of 10 score. So Josh, with all these scores and these numbers and everything that we're throwing around here, um, is this a smart bet? It seems like this is a risky bet for Netflix to take. Like the movie, and granted, the movie and a television show are two very different things. With a television show, and Netflix has a great track record of storytelling in television shows. Their movies, not so much. But their television properties, they do pretty well on average. So given that this movie, the 2006 film, lost so much money, it lost more than it cost to make the film. Is this a smart thing for Netflix to roll the dice on?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, that's a big business decision. I think it's just, I mean, greenlighting something and then kind of putting your time, effort, money, and attention into it is always a risk. And we've heard time and time again that nobody, like the secret in Hollywood is that nobody really knows what makes a hit. It's like we don't know exactly what people are going to love, what makes Mortal Kombat get 3 sequels, and what makes, this other movie, kind of this other video game movie, or what, Mario Brothers kind of just, without these huge budgets. Granted, artistic quality plays a big part of that, and like certainly like how people respond to that. But having said all that, I mean, it's always going to be a gamble. Any property, especially when you're setting off with a new property or a new property that is already beloved or is known in some way, it's always a risk, no matter what you do. Having said that, it's how much of a risk do you want to make? How much money are you going to put in this thing? I go back to the idea of like the 1989 Batman. Like that was kind of a big gamble for Warner Brothers. I believe it's Warner Brothers, correct?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Big gamble for Warner Brothers to put so much money into that movie, superhero movie, right? Because at that time, I mean, we think superhero movies now, of course, obviously. I feel like the 2000s and the 2010s beyond were like the decade that will be remembered for superhero movies. But back then, it was a bigger gamble, and it paid off. Now, had that not paid off financially at the box office, would we see as many superhero movies even today? I don't know, maybe not. But nothing cries let's make more than success. So since when Batman was big, it's like, great, let's make some more Batmans, let's make other superheroes, let's do this. So when one studio sees one studio go, hey, we made a success with this video game movie, now we want a property that we can make a video game movie that's going to be successful. Maybe this Assassin's Creed came with a big sigh of relief when they saw Sonic, and that they saw Sonic was successful. I don't know how successful it was, but I believe it was considered financially successful.
Sonic made a little bit of money. It didn't make a ton of money, but it didn't just break even. I think they made just enough back to consider. I mean, they've already greenlit a sequel. Sonic 2 is in the works now. So, I mean, it was successful enough that, they're going to do a sequel. I don't know. I look at something like this and I think, is this the right call? Is this the right property to do something with? Or, I mean, maybe, Josh, to your point, they could have seen like the success of Sonic and said, you know what? Let's try and stay in this genre. Because Assassin's Creed, I think they have like 11 video games that have come out in the past 10 or 12 years, and they've all been wildly successful. So again, maybe one shot in the dark isn't enough. Maybe they need to keep doing this, because again, like if we Josh, to your point, the superhero genre, it didn't start with Batman 1989. You need to have a few misfires before you figured out the formula. So I don't know, maybe that's what it is. Maybe they need a few misfires here. Question is for you guys, first of all, are you excited for this? How much are you looking forward to the Assassin's Creed television show and or universe that they're gonna try to craft and create? Jump on down to the comment section below and let me know your thoughts. In addition to that, do you think it's smart for Netflix to take this kind of a gamble? Do you think this is a safe gamble for them to do? Or should maybe they try a different property? Again, I'm interested. Jump down to the comment section below and let me know your thoughts. Hey everybody, thanks for watching. If you like this video, click like. If you really like this video, click subscribe. And if you really, really like this video, click share. because that is exactly what Scrooge McDuck would want you to do. DuckTales, woo!